5 divers disappeared inside an underwater cave in the Maldives. None returned to explain what happened. No survivor could describe the moment the dive changed. No one could say who entered first, when the group realized they were lost, or whether they ever found the correct route back toward open water. But the divers may not have been the only witnesses. Strapped to their wrists were small electronic devices recording the dive second by second. Depth, time, ascent and descent rates, warnings, decompression obligations, possibly breathing gas information, and perhaps the moment each diver stopped moving toward the surface. The GoPro cameras may show what the divers saw, but their dive computers may reveal what their bodies were doing. Together, those devices could allow investigators to reconstruct a journey that no human being survived to describe. This is not the release of an official forensic report. Authorities have not publicly revealed the complete electronic record. But by understanding what modern dive computers record, we can examine the questions that data may eventually answer. Did the 5 divers descend together? Did one person go deeper while the others followed? How long did they remain near the cave entrance? When did their computers begin issuing warnings? And did their final profiles reveal an attempt to escape? This is the digital evidence that may contain the missing timeline of the Maldives cave tragedy. On May 14th, 5 Italian divers entered the water near Vavu Atoll in the Maldives. They did not return. The group included marine researchers, experienced divers, and the dive professional associated with the vessel. Their bodies were later recovered from an underwater cave system after an extremely dangerous international recovery operation. 4 were reportedly found deeper inside the cave. The 5th was located closer to the entrance or outside the deepest section. Cameras and diving equipment were recovered. Italian investigators also sought the dive computers, GoPros, documentation, and other equipment as part of the inquiry. That matters because a dive computer is more than an underwater watch. During a dive, it continuously measures pressure. From that pressure, it calculates depth. It records how long the diver remains underwater. It tracks changes in depth and may calculate ascent speed, decompression status, nitrogen exposure, and warnings associated with the selected breathing gas. Some models record data frequently enough to create a detailed graph of the entire dive. The result is called a dive profile. Imagine a graph. Time runs from left to right. Depth runs from top to bottom. A normal recreational profile might show a controlled descent, a mostly level period at the planned depth, and then a gradual ascent toward a safety stop. But an emergency profile can look very different. It may show an unexpected descent, a long period at extreme depth, repeated rises and drops, a rapid ascent followed by another descent, or a final line that remains deep until the recording ends. Each shape tells part of a story, not the entire story, but enough to establish what physically happened. The first question is whether all 5 computers show the same descent. If the profiles are nearly identical, the group probably remained together for much of the dive. Their depth changes should line up. If one diver descends from 30 meters to 45 meters, and the others make the same descent seconds later, investigators may be able to determine who moved first and who followed. That would be extremely important. Group disasters are often discussed as though everyone made one shared decision at exactly the same moment. But underwater, a team can be pulled into danger one person at a time. The first diver crosses a boundary. The second follows to avoid separation. The third sees the team moving and assumes the change is intentional. Within seconds, 5 individual decisions begin to look like one coordinated plan. The computers may reveal whether the group descended as a tight formation or became separated. Suppose 4 profiles show the same route while one profile begins dropping sooner. That could suggest one diver led the descent. It could also mean that person was carried downward by current, followed the terrain, or reached the entrance first. The computer cannot tell investigators what the diver intended, but it can show the sequence, and sequence is critical. The second question is the planned depth. Reports surrounding the case have focused heavily on the Maldives' recreational depth limit and the much greater depth associated with the cave. A computer profile should show when the group crossed 30 meters. It should show whether they paused there. It should show whether the descent continued smoothly or suddenly became much steeper. That distinction could help evaluate several competing theories. If the graph shows a deliberate, controlled descent directly toward the cave's deeper entrance, that may suggest the depth was not accidental. If the divers remained near 30 meters for an extended period and then descended rapidly, something may have changed. Perhaps they followed another diver. Perhaps they encountered a current. Perhaps the terrain sloped downward more sharply than expected. Or perhaps they made an underwater decision to continue beyond the original plan. A smooth graph does not prove the dive was intentional. A diver can be disoriented while descending smoothly, but the pattern may help eliminate some explanations. The computers may also reveal how long the group spent outside the cave. That missing period could tell us whether the divers approached the entrance cautiously or entered soon after reaching depth. Imagine the profile shows 5 divers arriving at approximately the same level and remaining there for several minutes. That could indicate preparation. They may have been checking equipment, observing the cave, positioning themselves, or discussing the next move through hand signals. Now imagine the profiles barely pause before continuing deeper. That could suggest they were following a route already expected. It could also mean a current or terrain feature carried them toward the opening. Again, the numbers cannot explain motive, but they can provide a clock. And in this case, every minute matters. At approximately 60 meters, a diver breathing open-circuit gas consumes it far faster than at the surface. The surrounding pressure is roughly 7 times surface pressure. A diver's cylinder does not suddenly become smaller, but each breath removes much more gas from it. A calm diver may consume gas at one rate. A frightened diver swimming against current or searching through silt may use it several times faster. Investigators may compare the recorded time and depth with the cylinders that were recovered. If remaining pressures were documented, those pressures might help estimate when the diver's gas reserves became critical. Some computers can directly receive cylinder pressure information through a wireless transmitter. When that feature is used, the computer may record not only depth and time, but also breathing gas consumption. That could reveal a terrifying change. A normal breathing pattern may suddenly become much faster. The gas graph may begin falling sharply. That could correspond with exertion, current, panic, loss of visibility, or an emergency involving another diver. It might also reveal whether one diver began sharing gas. Suppose one person's cylinder pressure falls unusually quickly while another's pressure stops changing. That could suggest 2 divers were breathing from the same supply. It would not prove the exact reason. A regulator could have failed. A cylinder could have emptied. A valve could have been closed or damaged. But it would identify the moment the emergency changed from an individual problem into a team problem. Even without wireless pressure data, depth and motion patterns may reveal distress. A diver moving through a cave normally may maintain a relatively consistent depth. A diver searching for an exit may rise toward the ceiling, drop toward the floor, turn, and rise again. The profile might become irregular. Small oscillations could reflect attempts to navigate around obstructions. Larger changes might indicate that the diver entered different chambers, followed a sloping passage, or repeatedly searched for a route upward. The cave reportedly contained multiple sections, with a deeper interior area where 4 of the victims were found. If investigators obtain an accurate survey of the cave, they may compare the known depths of each chamber with the computer's profiles. That could help place the divers inside the structure at specific times. For example, if one chamber lies several meters deeper than another, the profile may show when the group crossed between them. The data cannot provide a perfect horizontal map. A standard dive computer knows depth, not exact left-to-right movement. It does not normally record a full 3-dimensional route. But combine depth with camera footage, timing, recovery positions, and a cave survey, and investigators may be able to reconstruct much more. A camera shows a wall, a sandbank, a passage, a diver's fins, or a light disappearing ahead. The computer gives that image a depth and a time. The two records can be synchronized. At 12:18, the camera passes a narrow opening. At the same moment, the computer shows a descent from 48 to 53 meters. At 12:21, visibility disappears. The profile begins moving up and down. At 12:24, the computer records a rapid rise. At 12:25, the diver descends again. Suddenly, disconnected images become a timeline. That is why the electronic evidence could be so powerful. It may show not only where the divers went, but when control was lost. One of the most debated possibilities is a silt out. Inside an underwater cave, sediment can be disturbed by fins, hands, bubbles, current, or multiple divers passing through a confined area. Clear water can become opaque in seconds. A camera may record the moment the view disappears. The image could change from visible rock and divers to nothing but reflected particles. The dive computer would continue recording even when the camera could see nothing. If the divers then began changing depth repeatedly, that might support the possibility that they were searching blindly. If their profiles remained together, they may have stayed as a group. If the graphs suddenly separated, the silt out may have divided them. That could help explain why 4 victims were reportedly found together while another was located closer to the entrance. Was that 5th diver separated early? Did he leave the group to search for the exit? Did he reach the correct corridor but exhaust his gas before escaping? Or did he enter the cave later and remain nearer the opening? The 5th computer's profile may be one of the most important. Compare it with the 4 deeper profiles. If all 5 descend together and one begins ascending earlier, that suggests an attempted exit. If the 5th diver never reaches the deepest recorded level, he may not have traveled as far inside. If his profile rises toward shallower water and then stops, he may have been close to escape. But close inside a cave is not the same as safe. A few meters can become an impossible distance when visibility is 0 and the cylinder is empty. The computers may also reveal alarms. Modern dive computers can warn divers about excessive depth, rapid ascent, decompression obligations, oxygen exposure, low gas, or other limits depending on their configuration. But investigators must be cautious. A logged warning does not prove a diver consciously ignored it. The diver may not have heard the alarm. A hood, bubbles, stress, or the noise of breathing can reduce audible awareness. The screen may have been difficult to read. The warning may have appeared during a more immediate emergency. A diver sharing gas, fighting current, or trying to find another person may see a decompression warning and have no safe way to obey it. The alarms can show when the computer detected danger. They cannot show whether the diver understood the danger at that moment. There is also the question of settings. A dive computer only calculates accurately when it is configured for the gas the diver is actually breathing. If a diver uses air but the computer is set for nitrox, or uses nitrox with the wrong oxygen percentage entered, the displayed information may be misleading. Investigators may examine each computer's gas setting. They may compare those settings with analysis of the cylinders. This could determine whether the computers were configured correctly for the dive. The devices may also show whether the group accumulated decompression obligations. A diver descending deep enough for long enough may no longer be able to ascend directly to the surface without added risk. The computer begins calculating required stops. That creates a cruel conflict during an overhead emergency. Inside a cave, the diver must first find open water. After escaping the cave, the diver may still need enough gas to complete a safe ascent and decompression stops. The cylinder must support the entire route. Not just the deepest point, not just the journey back to the entrance, the complete ascent to the surface. If the computer logs show rapidly increasing decompression requirements while gas reserves were falling, the diver's margin may have disappeared long before their cylinders were physically empty. They may have reached a point where every available choice carried severe risk. Remain inside and search. Attempt to share gas. Abandon decompression and rush toward the surface. Or continue following the group, hoping someone else knew the exit. The data could also reveal whether any diver made a rapid ascent attempt. A sudden upward movement might suggest the exit had been found. But if the profile then drops again, several explanations are possible. The passage may have led to a ceiling rather than open water. The diver may have entered a higher section of the same chamber. They may have become positively buoyant and struck the cave roof. Or they may have realized they were traveling in the wrong direction and reversed course. This is why a depth graph must never be treated like a complete video. The same line can have several meanings. Investigators must compare it with physical evidence. Where was the body found? Was the mask in place? Was the regulator still in the mouth? Was the cylinder empty? Were valves open? Were lights still attached? Was equipment damaged? What did the cameras show at the same moment? Only when the records agree does the reconstruction become stronger. Even the final moments may appear in the data. The computer may record the last depth change. It may continue logging after the diver becomes motionless. The profile may remain flat until the device is recovered or its recording ends. If all four deeper computers stop changing at similar times, the group may have exhausted its gas within a narrow period. If the times are separated, the emergency may have unfolded gradually. One diver may have lost gas first. Others may have attempted to assist. Each rescue effort could have reduced the remaining supply for the group. The tragedy might not have been 5 simultaneous deaths. It may have been a sequence in which each diver tried to solve the previous person's emergency until no options remained. That is only a possibility. The official data has not been released, but it demonstrates why investigators need every device. One computer provides one perspective. 5 synchronized computers create a group timeline. Add multiple cameras, and the cave may effectively contain its own black box. There are limits. A dive computer cannot record fear. It cannot show who persuaded the group to continue. It cannot explain why a guideline may not have been used. It cannot determine whether the original briefing included the cave. It cannot tell investigators whether a diver thought the entrance was another passage or believed an apparent exit lay ahead. The device records pressure and time. Human interpretation supplies the story. That is where investigators must resist the temptation to force every number into one dramatic theory. The profiles may establish facts while leaving the central decision unresolved. They may prove the group entered the cave, but not whether that entry was planned before the dive. They may show the divers exceeded 30 meters, but not whether they understood how deep the route would become. They may reveal an attempted ascent, but not whether the divers believed they had found the exit. They may show one person moving first, but not whether that person was leading, lost, assisting someone, or being pushed by current. The GoPros may eventually answer some of those questions. If usable footage survived, investigators may see the order of the divers, their lights, the visibility, and the physical route. Audio may capture bubbles, equipment noise, or impacts. Hand signals might show concern. A camera may turn toward a gauge or computer. A diver might point toward the exit. But the public should be careful about claims that the footage has already solved everything. Until authorities publish verified findings, nobody outside the investigation can honestly say what the complete recordings prove. What we can say is that the electronic evidence has the potential to settle several major disputes. It may reveal whether the descent was deliberate or gradual, whether the divers remained together, whether a major depth change happened before or after entering the cave, whether they attempted to retreat, whether one diver separated from the group, and approximately how long they had between the first sign of trouble and the final recorded movement. That final measurement may be the most haunting. Disasters often appear instantaneous from the surface. A group enters, they fail to return. A search begins. But inside the cave, the emergency may have lasted many minutes. There may have been time to recognize the mistake. Time to turn, time to search, time to share gas, time to believe the exit was just ahead. The computers may reveal that the final struggle was not one moment. It was a countdown. Every breath consumed more gas. Every movement disturbed more sediment. Every wrong turn increased the distance to safety. And every minute added decompression obligations while reducing the supply needed to complete them. The numbers may eventually reveal exactly when survival became unlikely. Not because the divers crossed an invisible line marked point of no return, but because the required gas, distance, depth, visibility, and time no longer fit together. That is the unforgiving mathematics of cave diving. The ocean does not need to destroy the equipment to hide the answer. Sometimes the answer remains intact on a wrist, silently recording everything. 5 divers entered the water. Their cameras may show what they saw. Their cylinders may reveal what they had left. Their final positions show where the journey ended. And their dive computers may connect those pieces into one continuous timeline. Until the official analysis is released, we must separate evidence from speculation. But when that analysis finally becomes public, the most important revelation may not be a dramatic image from a GoPro. It may be a simple graph. 5 lines descending together. A pause, a deeper drop, an irregular search. 1 line turning back. And then, one by one, every line becoming still. The divers could not return to tell us what happened, but their computers may have recorded the route, the warnings, the final attempts to escape, and the exact moment the dive became a tragedy. What do you believe the data will reveal? A planned descent, an underwater change of plan, a navigation error, or a desperate attempt to follow what looked like the way out? Tell me in the comments. And remember, a dive computer can warn you that the margin is disappearing. It cannot create a new exit.